Well, for me, it was frightening on a couple of levels because I've never, in all the time that I've been coming to London and to England.
They thought it was just a dusty time capsule, sealed for decades. A forgotten vault tucked away in a Los Angeles estate that once belonged to one of the greatest entertainers the world had ever seen. But when the heavy door creaked open after 30 long years, silence fell. What was inside didn't just tell the story of a man, it rewrote everything we thought we knew about him. Because this wasn't just anyone's vault. This was Sammy Davis Jr.'s, the Candy Man, the Rat Pack's most charismatic member, a man who danced, sang, and charmed his way into history while breaking barriers few dared to touch. For years after his death in 1990, rumors swirled about what Sammy left behind. Some claimed priceless memorabilia, others whispered about scandalous letters and dangerous secrets. Many believed the truth had been buried with him. Until now, what the team found inside that vault wasn't just gold records and custom suits. It was a hidden archive of Sammy's private life, contracts that revealed how much power he really had in Hollywood, handwritten notes to presidents and civil rights leaders, and a collection of items so personal that even his closest friends might never have seen them. But the most shocking discovery? A sealed envelope with a single line written on it in Sammy's unmistakable handwriting. Open only when you're ready to hear the truth. This is the story of what they found and why it changes the legacy of Sammy Davis Jr. forever. It happened quietly. No press releases, no media circus. Just a small team of lawyers, archivists, and two of Sammy's surviving relatives gathered at his former Beverly Hills estate. The house, though remodeled over the years, still held traces of his larger-than-life personality. The sweeping staircase, the sunken living room, the old mirrored bar where legends once laughed deep into the night. The vault was hidden behind what looked like an ordinary wooden panel in a corner study. Sammy had it installed in the late 1970s, not in a bank or a high-security facility, but right in his home. "If I can't keep my own secrets safe, who can?" he reportedly joked to a friend. The moment the locksmith turned the final bolt, the air seemed to change. Inside, the temperature dropped, carrying the musty scent of sealed decades, dust, leather, and a faint trace of Sammy's signature cologne. Stacks of archival boxes lined the shelves, each labeled in thick black marker. One said Rat Pack, 1962 to 1968. Another read Private Letters. There were rows of tailored tuxedos, still wrapped in garment bags, the fabric pristine as if he'd worn them yesterday. But it wasn't just clothing and paper. There were oddities too. A small, jewel-encrusted pistol, a pair of tap shoes with worn soles, and a heavy carved wooden box that rattled when moved. Everyone froze when they saw the envelope on the center shelf, the one with Sammy's handwritten warning. No one reached for it, not yet, because first they had to decide, open everything or respect the legend's silence. To understand why the vault's contents stunned everyone, you have to understand the man himself. Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't just another entertainer, he was a cultural force. Born in Harlem in 1925 to vaudeville dancers, Sammy was performing on stage before most kids learned to read. By the time he was a teenager, he was touring the country, dazzling audiences with a combination of singing, dancing, comedy, and sheer charisma. But his rise wasn't easy. In an era of segregation, Sammy broke into predominantly white venues where black performers weren't always welcome. He endured open racism, threats, and countless closed doors, but kept pushing through them with a smile and a performance so electric it couldn't be denied. By the late 1950s, Sammy was rubbing shoulders with the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. On stage, they were a comedy-laced storm of music and swagger. Off stage, Sammy was breaking barriers, demanding equal treatment in hotels and casinos where he performed. If the Rat Pack played, the venue had to treat all members equally. No exceptions. Yet fame came with a price. Sammy's personal life was a tabloid magnet, from his interracial marriage to Swedish actress May Britt, a scandal at the time, to rumors about political connections that placed him in dangerous crosshairs. By the 1970s, Sammy was a household name, appearing on TV, headlining Vegas residencies, and recording hit after hit. But behind the bright smile was a man who navigated constant pressure. Pressure to be perfect, to please everyone, to never slip. The vault, it seemed, was where Sammy stored the parts of himself the public never saw. Not just the glitz, but the grit. Not just the triumphs, but the trials. As the team stood in that dimly lit room, surrounded by the echoes of his life, it became clear. This wasn't just about memorabilia. It was about peeling back the curtain on a man who spent his life performing, even when the stage lights went out. And somewhere in those stacks of boxes and sealed envelopes was the truth he never told. The first box they chose was labeled in bold marker, Rat Pack 1962 to 1968. The archivist carefully slid it from the shelf, the cardboard creaking with age. A cloud of dust floated up, catching the beam of light from the single lamp in the corner. They placed the box on a table and slowly lifted the lid, revealing a treasure trove of photos, ticket stubs, playbills, and notes that felt like stepping into another world. There were candid Polaroids of Sammy and Frank Sinatra lounging backstage, whiskey glasses in hand, laughing like schoolboys. A black and white shot of Dean Martin with his arm draped around Sammy at a charity event. A cocktail napkin with a scrawled set list for a Vegas performance, complete with Sammy's doodles in the margins. One envelope inside was heavier than the rest. When opened, it revealed a gold money clip engraved with "To Sammy, with love, Frank." Alongside it, a folded letter in Sinatra's unmistakable handwriting. The note wasn't long, just a few lines about friendship, loyalty, and knowing the real you when the lights are off. That sentiment echoed in several other pieces in the box. There were letters from Rat Pack members planning secret getaways, thank you notes from civil rights leaders for Sammy's behind-the-scenes support, and even a few scribbled jokes that had clearly never made it to the stage. But not everything in the box was lighthearted. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, was a small notebook. Its pages were filled with Sammy's private thoughts during the height of his fame. Entries about the exhaustion of constant touring, the loneliness of hotel rooms, and his frustration at being reduced to a novelty act by some critics. Reading those words in his own handwriting was sobering. For every glamorous night at the Sands, there was a quiet, painful moment he had to face alone. When they closed the box, the room was silent for a moment longer than usual. It was as if the weight of who Sammy really was, beyond the sequins and spotlights, was starting to settle in. They had barely scratched the surface, but already the vault was telling a story that was richer, darker, and far more human than the one the world thought it knew. For hours, they moved from box to box. Stage costumes wrapped in protective plastic, handwritten lyrics to songs that never saw the light of day, even contracts from early television appearances where Sammy's name was written in smaller type than his white co-stars. Each discovery painted another layer onto his story. But that envelope, the one resting on the middle shelf, sealed for 3 decades with his looping handwriting across the front, open only when you're ready to hear the truth, still sat untouched. Finally, one of Sammy's relatives spoke up. "He wouldn't have left it here if he didn't want it opened someday," she said softly. The archivist carefully removed the envelope, its paper fragile, the adhesive seal discolored with time. With a deep breath, they slid it open. Inside was a single sheet of stationery, the kind Sammy often used for personal letters. It began plainly, If you're reading this, I'm gone. And maybe you're wondering why I kept this from the public. The letter unfolded into something no one expected. Sammy admitted that there were moments in his career when he compromised, took roles he didn't believe in, stayed quiet in the face of injustice, to protect his place in Hollywood. He wrote about being threatened by powerful people who didn't want him speaking out on civil rights issues.